Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue our discussion from Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Currently we're on chapter 17 of Antya Leela, titled The Lord's Bodily Transformations. Text number 36. The vibration of your flute, accompanied by your glance, which pierces us forcibly with the arrows of lust, induces us to ignore the regulated principles of religious life. Thus we become excited by lusty desires and come to you, giving up all shame and fear. But now you are angry with us. You are finding fault with our violating religious principles and leaving our homes and husbands. And as you instruct us about religious principles, we become helpless. So this verse and some of the verses that are going to follow, they're spoken by the gopis just before the rasa dance. So if you remember Krishna book, in the chapter of the rasa dance, Krishna, one night he was playing his flute, and hearing the vibration of Krishna's flute, all the gopis, they all leave their houses, leave their husbands, their babies, and they go running off into the forest to be with Krishna and to serve Krishna. So after they give up their husbands, their family members, their babies, and they go run off in the forest and come to Krishna, surrender themselves at Krishna's lotus feet, then Krishna, he teases the gopis and says, you're all young girls, you're all married, how can you, at the middle of the night come in the middle of the forest and associate with me? This is not good. What will people speak of you? Better you immediately leave and go back to your homes. So like this, Krishna, he teases the gopis. So in retaliation, these are some of the verses spoken by the gopis to Krishna. So in this verse, the gopis are saying that they're talking about the power of Krishna's flute, which will be like the main topic of this chapter, about the power of transcendental sound vibration that is coming from Krishna's body. For example, many times we hear verses in the Shastras that describe the glories of Krishna's beauty, about how powerful is Krishna's transcendental beauty. This chapter mainly will focus on the power of transcendental sound, which is coming from Krishna's body. So there are primarily three different sounds being produced from Krishna's body. One is the words which he is speaking. So Krishna's speech, that is one. Transcendental sound vibration coming from Krishna's body. Second sound vibration coming from Krishna's body is the jingling of his ornaments, specifically of his bangles, which he wears on his wrist, and also the jingling of his ankle bells. So at 9 o'clock when the curtains open, if you take darshan of our Gopinath, you'll see he'll be wearing some pearl armlets or bangles on his wrist. And if you take darshan of his lotus feet, you'll see he'll be wearing some silver anklets around his lotus feet. So when Krishna moves, his ankle bells also move, and they produce a very beautiful, melodious, tinkling sound. And also when Krishna moves his wrists, his arms, the bangles on Krishna's arm also produce a sound. So that is the second transcendental sound vibration coming from Krishna's body. The third transcendental sound coming from Krishna is the sound of his flute. When he plays his flute, the transcendental sound that comes, that is the third sound vibration that comes. So a mixture of these three, or any one of these three, when devotees they hear either the sound of Krishna's flute, or when devotees they hear the tinkling of Krishna's ankle bells, or when devotees they hear the very beautiful sweet speech of Krishna, they all immediately go into ecstasy. It's like nectar for the ears. Just like when we take darshan of Shri Radha Gopinath, Krishna's transcendental beauty is like nectar for our eyes. We can't stop seeing him. We just want to stand in front of Sri Sri Radha Gopal and continuously just stare at them and drinking their beauty, through our eyes. So in the same way, when devotees, they hear Krishna's speech, or when devotees, these devotees like the gopis, when they hear the tinkling of Krishna's ankle bells, or when they hear Krishna's flute, they all go into ecstasy and they don't want to do anything but just keep on hearing. So just like Krishna's beauty is all attractive, it completely absorbs the minds of his devotees. In the same way, any sound vibration in connection with Krishna, even the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is also non-different from Krishna. That is also transcendental sound vibration of Krishna. Just like we see with Parikshit Maharaj. He heard Bhagavatam, transcendental sound vibration about Krishna from Sukadeva Goswami. And he was so absorbed in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam that for 7 days and 7 nights, he forgot to eat and sleep. For 7 days and 7 nights, he completely fasted. He didn't eat, he didn't sleep, he just continuously heard. And few times during Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami, he asked, should I continue, and Parikshit Maharaj, he'll recite verses glorifying Bhagavatam, that whatever you're speaking, my dear Sukadeva Goswami, it's like nectar for my ears. And don't worry, I'm not affected by hunger and thirst. I just want to continuously drink in the nectar of Krishna Katha through my ears. You please go on continuing. I don't have any trouble. So this is the power of hearing about Krishna. So that is like the main theme of this chapter. We will be going through these verses today. It is said that the very first sense that becomes active when we come into this world is our sense of hearing. That is the very first sense that becomes active. Like when we're in the womb of our mother, the senses slowly, they start manifesting. And the very first sense the baby in the womb manifests is his sense of hearing. And we'll see many examples in Bhagavatam where a particular baby will be in the womb of his mother, and although he's still in the womb, he'll already start practicing bhakti. For example, Prahlad Maharaj is a classical example. He started practicing devotional service in the womb of his mother. He hasn't even come out. Just from the womb, he's already practicing bhakti by hearing Narad Muni preach about Krishna consciousness. Narad Muni was giving Bhagavatam class to his mother, Kayadu. So Kayadu was having one-on-one Bhagavatam class with Narad Muni. And Prahlad Maharaj, he was just in the womb of his mother. But he was also hearing. So that is the very first sense that becomes active when we come into this material world. And it's said in the Shastras that when we're about to pass away from this world and when our body is deteriorating in old age, different sense organs, they start slowly becoming inactive. Like as we grow older, our sense of sight start reducing, we have to wear glasses, our sense of smell, taste, everything slowly starts reducing. And he said at the time of death, the very last sense which passes away is the sense of hearing. So the first sense which comes into existence is the sense of hearing, and the very last sense that ceases to exist is the sense of hearing. So in this way, Bhagavatam or the Shastras, they highlight the importance of hearing. Because hearing is so important, that is the first sense that becomes active, and that is the last sense at the time of death that goes away. Because Krishna wants to give us maximum time opportunity to hear transcendental sound vibration. Also, if you if you look at we have 2 ears, but we only have one mouth. So also it is said that the way we judge our spiritual advancement is not by how eager we are to speak, but how eager we are to hear. And he said God has given us 2 ears and only one mouth for a reason. We have 2 ears and one mouth, which means we should be hearing more and speaking less. But for us, many times it's the opposite. So in this way, this Shastras explain, actually we can judge how we're making advancement, spiritual advancement, by our eagerness to hear, not by our eagerness to speak. Because when we're speaking, sitting on the Vyasasana, giving class or preaching, there will be some subtle side benefit we get. For example, after class, someone will glorify us. Oh, nice class you gave. Or, this was very nice. So there'll be a subtle sense gratification we can get when we're speaking. So speaking, in that sense, there's a chance that it's not fully pure, because we'll be getting some sidekick out of it, some glorification, name, fame, praise, so on and so forth. But in hearing, there is no one after Bhagavatam class, no one goes and tells a particular, audience member that, Prabhuji, I was watching you today, you were hearing Bhagavatam so nicely, your whole class, you were so attentively hearing, very nicely, you heard Bhagavatam. No one says like that. But everyone will come after the class to the speaker and say, nice class you gave, this is nice, that is nice. But to the hearer, no one will come and glorify them. So that's why hearing is a very humble service, and that's why Shastras explain that we can judge our advancement in devotional service by our eagerness to hear, not by our eagerness to speak. Because when we're speaking, there'll be some side sense gratification which will come. But in hearing, there's no side sense gratification, so it's more pure in that sense. So the more eager we are here to be like Krishna, the more we can understand we are advancing spiritually. That's why it said, Krishna has given us 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Okay, so now the gopis will talk about the effect of Krishna's flute. We know that this is all a well-planned trick. You know how to make jokes that cause the complete annihilation of women. But we can understand that your real mind, words and behavior are different. Therefore, please give up these clever tricks. The nectarian buttermilk of your flute's vibration, the nectar of your sweet words, and the nectarian sound of your ornaments mix together to attract our ears, minds and lives. In this way, you are killing us. So the gopis are saying, firstly there is the nectarian buttermilk of your flute, the nectarian sound vibration coming from your flute. Then there is the nectar of the words coming from your mouth. And then there is the nectarian sound of your ornaments as you move through the forest. When all these different sounds, they combine, they completely, steal away our minds. They completely steal away our hearts. And they completely steal away our soul. Then we're helpless. We have to surrender at your lotus feet. So how can you ask us to leave the forest and go back to our home? You yourself, through your flute, through your sound, through the jingling of your ornaments, through the sweet words coming from your mouth, have stolen our hearts. Now we can't leave anyway. You've already stolen our hearts. We have come to surrender at your lotus feet. So in this way, the gopis are appealing to Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke these words in a mood of anger as he floated on waves of ecstatic love. Merged in an ocean of anxiety, he recited a verse spoken by Srimati Radharani, expressing the same emotion. Then he personally explained the verse and thus tasted the sweetness of Krishna. So all these words are being spoken by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in ecstasy. So as we all know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So in ecstasy, Mahaprabhu, he is taking on the mood of the gopis, the mood the gopis we're feeling just before the rasa dance. And in that ecstasy, Mahaprabhu is speaking these words. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, My dear friend, the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna has a voice as deep as a cloud resounding in the sky. With the tinkling of his ornaments, he attracts the ears of the gopis. And with the sound of his flute, he attracts even the goddess of fortune and other beautiful women. That personality Godhead, known as Madan Mohan, whose joking words carry many indications and deep meanings, is increasing the lusty desires of my ears. Krishna's deep voice is more resonant than newly arrived clouds, and his sweet song defeats even the sweet voice of the cuckoo. Indeed, his song is so sweet that even one particle of its sound can inundate the entire world. If such a particle enters one's ear, one is immediately bereft of all other types of hearing. So it's described here that Krishna, he has a very deep voice. And in many places in the Shastras, Krishna's deep voice will be compared to the thundering of the clouds. On one side, Krishna's voice is very deep, like the thundering of clouds. on the other side, his voice is also simultaneously very sweet, sounding even more sweeter than birds like the cuckoos. So someone might say it's a bit contradictory. On one side we're saying Krishna's voice is very deep, very grave, like that of clouds. On the other side we're saying, he has a very sweet voice, it's very melodious, it's like the sweet voice of a cuckoo. So in Krishna, all these contradictions are clarified. And it's explained here that if even one particle of this sound vibration coming from Krishna's mouth enters into one's ears, one completely forgets all other sound vibrations. And we can see that with our own lives. Like before we came into Krishna consciousness, we used to listen to many karmi songs, And on our iPod or, phones, MP3 player, we will have so many different, not kirtans, but, songs by karmis, rap music or hip hop, I forgot the names of all the other genres, pop music, so on and so forth, by different artists. And we used to listen, and we used to get some rasa. But after we came to Krishna consciousness, naturally we lost taste for all those mundane sound vibrations. Now we're simply satisfied hearing kirtan, and we don't feel that attraction towards karmi music anymore. So same thing the gopis are saying, that if even one particle of sound vibration comes and enters into our ears, into anyone's ears, they'll immediately forget all other sound vibration. They'll be so happy and satisfied hearing something about you or hearing something coming directly from you, that they'll forget everything else. So this is the power of sound vibration coming from Krishna, or sound vibration about Krishna. There is no difference. So either sound vibrations spoken directly by Krishna, for example Bhagavad Gita, or sound vibrations spoken about Krishna, like Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says there is no difference. There is no difference between talks describing Krishna's glories and talks which is coming directly from Krishna's mouth, like Bhagavad Gita. It's the same thing, Prabhupada says, and one can derive the same benefit. Text number 42. My dear friend, please tell me what to do. My ears have been plundered by the qualities of Krishna's sound. Now, however, I cannot hear his transcendental sound, and I am almost dead for want of it. So now the gopis are saying, or Srimati Radharani, she is saying that, Krishna, the transcendental thief, he has stolen my ears, and he has captured it, with the sound vibration of his flute. And no matter how hard I try, I can't get my ears back. My ears are just stuck, completely absorbed in hearing Krishna. My ears have been plundered by the qualities of Krishna's sound. Now, however, I cannot hear his transcendental sound, and I am almost dead for want of it. But now Srimati Radharani is saying that now suddenly I can't hear the sound of his flute anymore. And my ear is, hungry. It's become so addicted to hearing Krishna's flute that my ear is now becoming mad out of intoxication. So mundane example you can take, just like people, they get addicted to some kind of drug. Then, every day they have to take that drug for their sustenance because they're addicted to it. And if on a certain day, somehow or other, they don't have money to buy that drug, then they become mad, because the body has become so addicted to it. So same thing Srimati Radharani is describing, that my ears have become so addicted to hearing Krishna that now suddenly when I can't hear about Krishna, I'm going mad in ecstasy. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? I want to hear him. I want to hear the sound of his flute. The twinkling of Krishna's ankle bells surpasses the songs of even the swan and crane, and the sound of his bangles puts the singing of the Chakra Bird to shame. Having allowed these sounds to enter the ears even once, one cannot tolerate hearing anything else. So now we're hearing about the sounds of Krishna's ornaments. So firstly, the tinkling of Krishna's ankle bells are described. It's mentioned as Krishna walks, his ankle bells, they move here and there and they tinkle. And the tinkling of Krishna's ankle bells, they surpass the songs of the swan and the crane. And there is also the twinkling of his bangles on his wrist. and the sound vibration of his bangles surpassed the singing of the Chakra Bird. And once these sound vibrations enter into one's ears, one cannot tolerate hearing anything else. One becomes completely addicted to this. Krishna's speech is far sweeter than nectar. Each of his jubilant words is full of meaning, and when his speech mixes with his smile, which is like camphor, the resultant sound and the deep meaning of Krishna's words create various transcendental mellows. So now description is given of Krishna's speech. The gopis are saying, Srimati Radharani is saying that Krishna's speech is just like an ocean of nectar. And the gopis are saying, not only is Krishna completely mesmerizing us with the nectar of his speech, but as he is speaking, he is also smiling very nicely. And the gopis are saying that Krishna's smile is just like camphor. So when you combine camphor with nectar, you get an explosion of nectar. Like this, the gopis are explaining their helpless situation. Just see how helpless we are. Krishna, as a transcendental thief, he is stealing away our minds and hearts. On one hand, his speech is just like an ocean of nectar. On the other hand, as he is speaking to us, he is smiling so wonderfully. His smile is like camphor being added into the pot of nectar. In this way, an explosion of nectar is coming towards us and we can't resist. We become mad in ecstasy, hearing Krishna's words and seeing Krishna's smile. In this way, all our senses are helplessly being dragged towards him. By seeing Krishna's smiles, our eyes are being dragged towards him. And by hearing Krishna's beautiful speech, our ears are being dragged towards him. So in this way, Krishna very mercilessly, he is plundering our hearts, he is plundering our minds. So in this way, the gopis are explaining their situation. One particle of that transcendental, beautiful nectar is the life and soul of the ear, which is like a Chakra Bird that lives in hope of tasting that nectar. Sometimes, by good fortune, the bird can taste it. But at other times, he unfortunately cannot, and therefore almost dies of thirst. Now the gopis are talking about the Chakra Bird. So this bird is very interesting. It is said that, Prabhupada explains that this Chakra Bird is very unique in the sense it's very picky in where it takes water from. It's explained this Chakra Bird will only drink fresh rainwater. It will never drink water from the ground. So as long as the rain hasn't come, as long as the rain clouds hasn't come, this Chakra Bird will completely fast. Even though it will be dying out of thirst, even though it might have been several days or weeks without water, still the Chakra Bird will be so determined, it will only take water which is coming straight from the rain clouds. It will never take water from the ground. And the gopis are saying this is the situation of our ears. Once having tasted the nectar of Krishna's sound vibration, our ears, just like the Chakra Bird, have made this fixed determination that we will only hear about Krishna and nothing else. Let not a single sound vibration other than Krishna's sound vibration enter into our ears. So in this way, the gopis are describing the condition of the ears. Just like the Chakra Bird, he is so determined and adamant that I will only drink water that is coming from the rain clouds. I won't drink water anywhere else. Even though the Chakra Bird, Prabhupada explains, might be dying out of thirst, still he won't give up on his determination. So in the same way the gopis are explaining, this is what has become of the ears. The ears have become so intoxicated by hearing about Krishna or hearing from Krishna that the ears don't want to hear anything else except for Krishna. So this is the perfection of our sense of hearing. So we should, as Mahaprabhu explains, that when it comes to devotional service, there is no greater devotional service as that displayed by the gopis of Vrindavan. So this is an ideal example to be followed by all of us. So we should all aspire to also have that same greed, that same thirst, that same attraction to hearing about Krishna. It is in one of the previous chapters, I think in Madhya Lila, is given in descriptions which is given of Srimati Radharani, it is given that the earrings that Srimati Radharani wears on her ears, they represent that deep attraction or attachment Srimati Radharani has to hearing about Krishna. So all these verses which we're hearing about the gopis' deep attachment and attraction, deep chastity to hearing only about Krishna and nothing else, Caitanya Caritamrta explains that is represented by Srimati Radharani's earrings. So next time we take darshan of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, if you take darshan of the earrings of Srimati Radharani, we can remember that these earrings that Srimati Radharani wears, that represents her deep attraction and attachment to hearing only about Krishna and nothing else. So that should be our mood also. Actually, in second canto of Bhagavatam, there is one verse which is very heavy. It explains, so at the beginning of second canto, this verse explains how each and every one of our senses, they are supposed to be used for Krishna's service. And this verse explains that just like a lady who is married, it is her duty to be chaste to her husband. And if a lady leaves her husband and goes somewhere else, then that lady is considered to be a prostitute, according to the Shastras. And this verse in second canto of Bhagavatam, it explains that in the same way, all of our senses are supposed to be engaged in the service of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So we're all Prakriti, we're all feminine in nature, and Krishna is the Supreme Purusha. And Bhagavatam explains that all of our senses, just like a wife is supposed to be chaste towards her husband, in the same way Bhagavatam explains in second canto, all of our senses are supposed to be chaste to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. All of our senses are supposed to be used only in the service of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. On the other hand, Bhagavatam explains, if our sense, instead of being engaged in some Krishna conscious activity, is going somewhere else, then that particular sense is considered to be no better than a prostitute. Just like a lady, if she leaves her husband and goes to some other man, one would consider that lady as a prostitute. In the same way, Bhagavatam explains, if any one of our senses, instead of being engaged in direct service to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, goes somewhere else, seeking sense gratification, then that particular sense is no better than a prostitute. In this way, second canto of Bhagavatam explains. So from these verses in CC, we are seeing how chaste are all the senses of the gopis of Vrindavan. So the eyes of the gopis are so chaste, they will only look at Krishna and nothing else. Like this Sunday is Radhastami, the praise day of Srimati Radharani. And as we've all heard many times, when Srimati Radharani appeared, she apparently wasn't opening her eyes. And the Vrajvasi was thinking that maybe this child is born blind. But actually she was just waiting for Krishna to come. As soon as baby Krishna came, crawling, then immediately Srimati Radharani opened her eyes and took darshan of Krishna. So this is the mood of Srimati Radharani. Her eyes are only meant to stare at Krishna. Her eyes are only meant to drink in the liquid beauty of Krishna's transcendental form. So Srimati Radharani's eyes, all the gopis' eyes, they're supremely chaste towards Krishna. They will never be engaged for sense gratification. And in these verses we're hearing about the chastity of the gopis' ears. The gopis, they only engage their ears in hearing only about Krishna and nothing else. So in this way, the gopis are setting the ideal example of how is it that a devotee should maintain the chastity of all of his senses. If instead of engaging our senses in Krishna consciousness, we engage it for sense gratification, then according to second canto of Bhagavatam, our senses are acting like prostitutes. So the ideal example to be followed are demonstrated here in these verses. So we can remember these beautiful descriptions, take inspiration from them, and try and follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Text 46. The transcendental vibration of Krishna's flute disturbs the hearts of women all over the world, even if they hear it only once. Thus, their fastened belts become loose, and these women become the unpaid maidservants of Krishna. Indeed, they run toward Krishna exactly like mad women. when she hears the vibration of Krishna's flute, even the goddess of fortune comes to him, greatly hoping for his association. But nevertheless, she does not get it. When the waves of thirst for his association increase, she performs austerities, but still she cannot meet him. So now the gopis are describing the effect of Krishna's flute on all the other denizens in the whole universe. So the gopis are saying, when the denizens of the higher planetary systems, when they hear the sound vibration of your flute, they immediately lose their minds. Their belts loosen, their hairs loosen, and they immediately become attracted to you. What to speak of the heavenly damsels, when even Lakshmi Devi, when even the goddess of fortune, when she hears the sound vibration of your flute, even she becomes completely mad in ecstasy, and she comes running to serve you. So if even the heavenly damsels are getting attracted by your flute, if even the goddess of fortune, if she is being attracted by your flute, then how can you blame us? We're just insignificant human beings on planet Earth. If even Apsaras and heavenly damsels are being attracted by your flute, if even Lakshmi Devi is being attracted by your flute, then how can we resist? We're just ordinary human beings. How can we resist being attracted by your flute? So therefore you can't blame us. Therefore we can't stop being attracted towards you. Therefore you can't ask us to leave the forest and go back home. Because your flute vibration is so powerful that it's even attracting the heavenly damsel and Lakshmi Devi. And in comparison to them, we are nothing. So we can't help ourselves, we have to come towards you. So in this way, the gopis are putting forward these arguments at Krishna's lotus feet. Only the most fortunate can hear these four nectarian sounds: Krishna's words, the twinkling of his ankle bells and bangles, his voice, and the vibration of his flute. If one does not hear these sounds, his ears are as useless as small conch shells with holes. Text 49. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lamented in this way, agitation and ecstasy awoke in his mind, and he became very restless. Many transcendental ecstasies combined in him, including anxiety, lamentation, attention, eagerness, fear, determination, and remembrance. The aggregate of all these ecstasies once awoke a statement by Srimati Radharani in the mind of Bilva Mangal Thakur or Lila Sukha. In the same ecstatic mood, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now recited that verse, and on the strength of madness, he described its meaning, which is unknown to people in general. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Alas, what shall I do? To whom shall I speak? Let whatever I have done in hopes of meeting Krishna be finished now. Please say something auspicious, but do not speak about Krishna. Alas, Krishna is lying within my heart like Cupid. Therefore, how can I possibly give up talking of him? I cannot forget Krishna, whose smile is sweeter than sweetness itself, and who gives pleasure to my mind and eyes. Alas, my great thirst for Krishna is increasing moment by moment." Now Mahaprabhu will further elaborate on this verse, which is spoken by Srimati Radharani. The anxiety caused by separation from Krishna has made me impatient, and I can think of no way to meet him. O my friends, you are also deranged by lamentation. Who therefore will tell me how to find him? O my dear friends, how shall I find Krishna? What shall I do? Where shall I go? Where can I meet him? Because I cannot find Krishna, my life is leaving me. Suddenly Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became calm and considered his state of mind. He remembered the words of Pingala, and this aroused an ecstasy that moved him to speak. Thus he explained the meaning of the verse. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "If I give up hope of meeting Krishna, I shall then be happy. Therefore, let us stop this most inglorious discussion of Krishna. It would be better for us to talk of glorious topics and forget him. While speaking in this way, Srimati Radharani suddenly remembered Krishna. Indeed, he appeared within her heart. Greatly astonished, she told her friends, "The person I want to forget is lying in my heart." So in these beautiful verses, we're hearing about the ecstasy of separation that Srimati Radharani, she is feeling from Krishna. So her senses, as we've all been discussing, how her senses have become mad in intoxication. Her eyes have become intoxicated by the beauty of Krishna. Her ears have become intoxicated by hearing Krishna's flute, by hearing the nectar of Krishna's words, by hearing the twinkling of Krishna's ankle bells and bangles. So in this way, all of her senses have become intoxicated by Krishna, and now Krishna has suddenly disappeared. And in great separation, Srimati Radharani is lamenting, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" And then as she's lamenting like this, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" she is remembering the pastime of Pingala. So if you remember 11 Canto Bhavatam, the story of Pingala comes. So Pingala, she was a prostitute by profession. And one night, she is waiting for a customer to come. She waits till midnight, till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, no one comes. Then finally she becomes fed up. And at that time, a wave of renunciation hits Pingala. And during this realization, Pingala, she recites a lot of very powerful words, which are recorded in 11 Canto Bhavatam. And to keep it short, her realization was that, for so long I've been trying to satisfy these men, but instead of giving me pleasure, they've just been causing me distress. And the root cause of all my suffering is all these material desires which I've accumulated. So if I let go of all these material desires, I will be happy. So from this day onwards, I'm going to stop this profession, I'm going to stop serving these insignificant men, and I'm just going to simply worship Krishna. So in this way, Pingala's realization was that material desires, material hankering is the cause of lamentation, is the cause of suffering, is the cause of unhappiness. If one can give up all material desires and hankerings, then one can be happy and peaceful. So as Srimati Radharani, she's lamenting like this, she remembers the story of Pingala. And she thinks, yes, I should be like Pingala. Just like Pingala, she forgot about all of this and she renounced all the desires she had. In the same way, I should forget Krishna and I should renounce my desire to be with Krishna, just like Pingala renounced. So like that, Srimati Radharani, she thinks to herself. And she tells her Gopi friends, okay, from now on, we're not going to talk about Krishna. We're not going to think about Krishna. From now on, we're just going to completely forget about Krishna. So like this, she makes up her mind. She makes her determination. But after making this determination that, okay, from now on, we're not going to talk about Krishna. From now on, we're going to renounce Krishna. We're going to forget him. She closes her eyes and immediately the first thing that comes to her mind is Krishna. And she realizes that actually the very person I'm trying to forget, that very person is hiding inside my heart. I'm trying to forget this person, but that person is hiding inside my heart. As soon as I close my eyes, I can see him within my heart. How can I forget him? So in this way, Srimati Radharani, she's caught in this helpless position. She's thinking, okay, the cause of all our suffering, transcendental suffering is, Krishna, let us forget him. But no matter how hard they're trying to forget Krishna, they can't. This is how great their attraction is to Krishna. That Krishna is residing within the hearts. No matter how hard they try, they cannot forget him. While speaking in this way, Srimati Radharani suddenly remembered Krishna. Indeed, he appeared within her heart. Greatly astonished, she told her friends, "The person I want to forget is lying in my heart." Srimati Radharani's ecstasy also made her think of Krishna as Cupid. And this understanding frightened her. She said, "This Cupid, who has conquered the whole world and entered my heart, is my greatest enemy, for he does not allow me to forget him." Then great eagerness conquered all the other soldiers of ecstasy, and an uncontrollable desire arose in the kingdom of Srimati Radharani's mind. Greatly unhappy, she then chastised her own mind. If I do not think of Krishna, my impoverished mind will die within a moment, like a fish out of water. But when I see Krishna's sweetly smiling face, my mind and eyes are so pleased that my desire for him redoubles. So now Srimati Radharani, she's admitting. She's saying, okay, although I'm trying to forget about Krishna, actually it's impossible. And she's explaining that actually she is so much attracted to Krishna, she is so attached to Krishna, that she is saying, if I do not think of Krishna, my impoverished mind will die within a moment. So she's saying, I am so attached to Krishna that if even for a moment I don't think of Krishna, my mind will immediately commit suicide. My mind will immediately die. Just like if you take a fish out of water, what will happen to the fish? The fish will immediately die. So in the same way, Srimati Radharani is saying that I've become so attracted to Krishna that if even for a moment my mind stops thinking about Krishna, my mind will immediately cease to exist. My mind will immediately die, just like a fish will immediately die when it comes out of water. So this is how attached, this is the level of Krishna consciousness the gopis are at. So we should also try and aspire to have that same level of absorption. For us, what to speak of one moment, many, many minutes, many, many hours, many, many days, we spend thinking about so many other things apart from Krishna. But for the gopis, not even a single moment, they can not think of Krishna. So this absorption is something that we should all aspire for. One time, at the end of a class, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, he was asked by a reporter that, Maharaj, in one word, can you please describe your bhakti process? You guys are all practicing bhakti, you're all practicing Krishna consciousness. Can you please describe in one word, what is Krishna consciousness? Please describe in one word, what is bhakti? What is all this sadhana you're doing? And how did Radhanath Maharaj describe Krishna consciousness in one word? Radhanath Maharaj said, absorption. So he chose that word to describe Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness is all about absorption. Absorption in what? Absorption in Krishna. So how should we be absorbed in Krishna? That is being exemplified by the gopis. Their eyes were completely fixed at seeing Krishna's beauty. Their ears were completely fixed in hearing about Krishna. And the minds, 24 hours a day, were just completely absorbed in hearing about Krishna, in thinking about Krishna. And Radharani is saying that not even for a moment her mind is going away from Krishna. If for a moment her mind goes away from Krishna, then immediately. It's like taking a fish out of water, the mind will immediately commit suicide. The mind will immediately cease to exist. So that is how strong Srimati Radharani's attachment is towards Krishna. And this analogy Prabhupada also uses in Bhagavad Gita in one purport. Prabhupada gives this and another example to say how strong our bhakti should be. So just like a fish, it can't live without water, in the same way Prabhupada says, we should be having that same attachment to devotional service. Just like if you take a fish out of water, it struggles, it's like in an unnatural state, and it doesn't feel comfortable. So in the same way, if we're not engaged in devotional service, we should have that feeling of, we should feel uncomfortable. We should feel like something is wrong, something is missing, I'm not doing any service, I'm not hearing, I'm not singing, I'm not chanting, I should do something. Just like a fish, you can imagine, you take out water, the fish will be, struggling here and there in pain. So that should be our condition. Whenever we're not engaged in Krishna consciousness, we should always, every moment of the day, we should be engaged in some Krishna conscious activity. Another example Prabhupada gives in Bhagavad Gita is that of a boy and a girl. Prabhupada says that just like a boy and a girl, when they meet together, they exchange, some rasa, and the boy is always longing to meet the girl is always longing to meet the boy, they're always thinking about one another, and when they get together, they talk. In the same way Prabhupada explains, we should have that same attraction towards Krishna consciousness. We should have the same attraction towards Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. We should always be longing to come to the temple, to take darshan of them, to engage in the service, to hear about them, to chant about them, so on and so forth. That same longing we should have. And actually, Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one prayer he offers to Krishna in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is that, my dear Lord, just like a boy is spontaneously attracted to a girl, and just like a young girl is spontaneously attracted to a young boy, In the same way, my dear Lord, please bless me so that my mind will be spontaneously attracted to your lotus feet only and nothing else. So in this world we see, a young boy is naturally attracted to a young girl and a young girl is naturally attracted to a young boy. So Rupa Goswami is playing that please bless me so my mind will spontaneously also be naturally attracted towards your lotus feet. And the gopis, they're displaying that to the perfection in these verses. Alas, where is Krishna, the treasure of my life? Where is the lotus-eyed one? Alas, where is the divine ocean of all transcendental qualities? Alas, where is the beautiful blackish youth dressed in yellow garments? Alas, where is the hero of the rasa dance? Where shall I go? Where can I find him? Please tell me. I shall go there. Speaking in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began running, but Swarup Damodar Goswami stood up, caught him, and took him on his lap. Then Swarup Damodar brought him back to his place and made him sit down. Suddenly Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to external consciousness and said to Swarup Damodar Goswami, My dear Swarup, please sing some sweet songs. The Lord's ears were satisfied when he heard Swarup Damodar sing songs from Gita Govinda and those by the poet Vijayapati. So during these confidential pastimes, Mahaprabhu, he used to only have with primarily two main associates. One is Swarup Damodar Goswami, another one is Ramananda Roy. And Swarup Damodar Goswami, he was especially known for his sweet singing. So to assist Mahaprabhu in his mood of relishing the ecstasy of his gopis, Swarup Damodar, he would many times sing different songs. Particularly, he would sing songs, the Gita Govind, and also songs written by the poet Vijayapati. And Ramananda Roy, he would, on the other hand, he would recite different verses from the Shastras. Ramananda Roy, he would recite different verses. Swarup Damodar, on the other hand, he was known for his singing, so he would sing in sweet, melodious voice different songs by the poet Vijayapati and the famous song Gita Govind. Each day and night, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would become deranged in this way and talk like a madman. Even Anantadev, who possesses thousands of mouths, cannot fully describe the ecstatic transformations that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experienced in a single day. What can a poor creature like me describe of those transformations? I can give only a hint of them, as if showing the moon through the branches of a tree. This description, however, will satisfy the mind and ears of anyone who hears it, and he will be able to understand these uncommon activities of deep ecstatic love for Krishna. So now, Krishna Chakravarti Goswami, he is saying the effect of anyone who hears these transcendental descriptions of Krishna. Anyone who hears the description of these verses, his mind will be fully satisfied and his ears will also be fully satisfied. And in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 17, Krishna, he describes different austerities for different parts of the body. For example, Krishna describes austerity for the body is to be clean. For example, in cold season, our mind naturally rebels, to get into a gamcha and go, in the cold, early in the morning to take a shower, and take a bath. So to be clean, or to sweep your house, to clean your house, it's austerity. If mind's natural tendency of the mind is to be lazy. The mind doesn't want to clean, doesn't want to do this, do that. So therefore cleanliness is given as austerity for the body. In the same way, Krishna says, serving superior Vaishnavas, serving one's mother and father is also austerity of the body. Because we can be doing so many other things, but out of our own free will, we go out of our way to serve senior Vaishnavas. We do menial services for them, we massage them, we cook for them, we clean their rooms. So that is, we're engaging our body in some sort of austerity. So that Krishna is saying is austerity of the body. So Krishna says austerity of the body is being clean, maintaining cleanliness, serving superior Vaishnavas, serving sadhus, serving one's parents, offering obeisances, Krishna says, that is also austerity. When we come to temple, we can just walk straight to Radha Gopinath and just talk to them, take darshan. But instead, what do? We first bow down to the Vaishnavas, we bow down to Prabhupada, we bow down to Radha Gopinath. So that's some sort of austerity, and which we're using our body for. So So that is all comes under austerity of the body. In this way, Krishna also says there's different austerities for speech. Krishna says austerity of the speech is to speak words that are truthful. So that is number one. Number two is to speak words which are beneficial for others. And number three, speak words which are pleasing to the ears of others. So in this way, Krishna, he qualifies three different qualities which our speech must have. So in this way, in one very nice verse, Krishna is giving, like a whole seminar on effective communication. If we want our communication to be nice for others, if we want our words that we're speaking to go deep into the heart of others, three things our words must tick. Number one, whatever we're speaking should be truthful. Number two, whatever we're speaking should be beneficial for the other person. And number three, it should be pleasing to the ear. If Krishna says if we're ticking these three boxes, then our speech will be effective. This is effective communication. And this is the three austerities for speech. In the same way, then Krishna describes austerity for the mind. And one of the austerities Krishna describes for the mind is satisfaction. The default nature of the mind is that the mind will always be dissatisfied. No matter what you give, the mind will always want more. No matter how much we have, the mind will always seek more. Say someone has $1 million, you would think that person will be happy. But that person who has $1 million, he will be looking at another person who has $2 million. Or he will be looking at another person who has $10 million. And his mind will be thinking, this person has more than me, I also need more. So although he has so much money, he still won't be satisfied. So in this way, Krishna explains that the nature of our mind is to be always dissatisfied. No matter whatever we have, mind will always be greedy and want more and more and more. So therefore, Krishna says that austerity for the mind is satisfaction. So we should train our mind to be satisfied with whatever we have. And in this verse, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami is saying that we can bring about that satisfaction of our mind by simply hearing these beautiful descriptions of Krishna, of the beauty of Krishna, of the transcendental sound vibration coming from Krishna, of the description of the gopis' attachment to Krishna. Just by hearing Krishna Katha, we can bring about satisfaction of the mind. Ecstatic love for Krishna is wonderfully deep. By personally tasting the glorious sweetness of their love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us its extreme limit. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is wonderfully merciful and wonderfully magnanimous. We have heard of no one else within this world so merciful and so charitable. O people of the world, worship the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all respects. Only in this way will you achieve the nectarian treasure of ecstatic love for Krishna. Thus I have described Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic transformation of becoming like a tortoise. In that ecstasy, he talked and acted like a madman. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has fully described this pastime in his book, Gauranga Stava Kalpa Vriksha. How wonderful it is! Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left his residence without opening the 3 strongly bolted doors. Then he crossed over the 3 high walls, and later, because of strong feelings of separation from Krishna, he fell down amidst the cows of the Telanga district and retracted all the limbs of his body like a tortoise. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared in that way, rises in my heart and maddens me. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Antya Lila, 17th chapter, describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime of retracting his limbs like a tortoise. Next chapter is titled, Rescuing the Lord from the Sea. Yes, sir. Text number? Okay, so text number 46. The transcendental vibration of Krishna's flute disturbs the hearts of women all over the world, even if they hear it only once. Thus, their fastened belts become loose, and these women become the unpaid maid servants of Krishna. Indeed, they run towards Krishna exactly like madwomen. So what does it mean by unpaid maidservants of Krishna? So basically, the gopis are explaining that when they come in touch with Krishna by hearing his transcendental vibration of his flute or by seeing his transcendental beauty, they become so mesmerized, so sold out by Krishna's beauty that they just completely surrender their lives at the lotus feet of Krishna. And generally, in this material world, if we see a servant-master relationship, the servant will serve the master, but the servant will always get or expect something in return from the master, right? No one will serve a master without getting some paycheck, right? So in India, in many houses, they will keep servants or maid servants who will do the cleaning of the house, so on and so forth, the cooking, so on and so forth. But they're getting something in return. They're getting some pay, or they're getting a room in the house to stay in, so on and so forth. So Prabhupada explains, in this material world, there is servant-master relationship. But in this material world, the servant always desires something in return from the master, some pay. But in the spiritual world, the servant-master relationship still exists. Krishna is the supreme master, and all the devotees in Vaikuntha and Vrindavan, they're all acting as Krishna's servants. But the difference there is, all the devotees, they serve Krishna, but they don't expect anything in return. They don't expect any paycheck. They don't expect any reciprocation. They just simply serve Krishna because they love Krishna. They're so mesmerized by Krishna's beauty, by Krishna's word. Their hearts are so sold out of love for Krishna, that they're just simply happy and blissful serving Krishna. And just the opportunity to do service for Krishna is itself enough for them. They don't want anything else beyond that. They don't expect anything in return from Krishna. So that is what is meant by unpaid maidservant, which means it is pure devotional service, which means they're acting as Krishna's servants, but they don't expect any payment in return. Just like every day we sing in the last verse of Siksastakam. So these verses of Siksastakam, they're actually spoken by Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So these 8 verses of Siksastakam are actually the words of Srimati Radharani, or what Srimati Radharani is feeling, what she is thinking in her mind. And this last verse of Siksastakam exemplifies this. Srimati Radharani is saying that Krishna, I love you, I just like serving you. You can either embrace me or you can either reject me and put me far away. Either case, I will always love you, I will always serve you, I will never let go of your lotus feet. So that is unpaid maidservant, where the master gives payment, doesn't give payment, where the master congratulates, embraces you, or whether the master kicks you away, still the maidservant will continue on serving. So this is the mood of Srimati Radharani and all the Vrajvasis, that they all act as simply unpaid maidservants of Krishna, which means they don't expect anything in return. Just the opportunity to do service for Krishna is itself enough for them. Is itself giving them so much ecstasy. They don't desire anything else. So that is exemplified in the last verse of Siksastakam. One time, Radhesham Prabhu, who finished with this, he asked Radhanan Maharaj that, you're always talking about being humble, you're always talking about Trinadapi Sunichena, we have to be humble like a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. But is there something beyond Trinadapi Sunichena? Is there something beyond humility? Is there something beyond this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena? Because all your classes, again and again, you're only talking about this one verse. Then Radhana Maharaj, he says that actually, yes, there is one thing which is even greater than Trinadapi Sunichena. And what is that thing? Radhana Maharaj says, this verse, the last verse of Siksastakam, is that one verse which is greater than Trinadapi Sunichena. So that is the topmost level of devotional service, of self-realization. There is nothing beyond that. So that last verse of Siksastakam, that exemplifies the highest mood of the gopis, the topmost perfection. They're so sold out to Krishna, they're saying that, Krishna, we love you so much that either you embrace us, you kick us away, we don't mind. We will just continue serving you for eternity, life after life. Okay, we're over time, we'll stop here. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.